The West and especially the EU is following the sort of policy of as long as the old dictator is out, let's just try to see if this dictator goes in a different way. So let's give him all the support they would need, they would want. And this is what's happening with the sort of current leader, Ahmed al-Sharaa or Mohammed al-Julani or al-Golani or whatever new name he decided to do. Um, and today we'll cover some of the policy. Again, we'll do a bit of a reminder of who he is. And we'll also do few gems from maybe people have missed it, but Syria has actually adopted a new constitution. It's sort of a transitional constitution. Basically, it's supposed to be just for 5 years, sort of in this transitional period, and then there should be a new one. But I think this one and the way it's set up is really interesting, and it would be interesting to go through some of those things. Joining me today is Alex. Welcome to the Daily Objective. And Alex, to start with you, yeah, I mean, where do we even start? So again, this the Syrian president, now he's officially the president of Syria. Basically, after Assad regime fell apart, he was sort of like a de facto thing, and then he was recognized as a leader, sort of like recognized by himself or sort of by like his own people. It's not like, once you take power, it's not like there's anybody to oppose you. But just to give you a bit of his background, he joined al-Qaeda in Iraq after the invasion of Iraq. He was imprisoned by America actually from 2006 to 2011, and then he created his own al-Nusra Front in Syria to fight in the Syrian civil war, where he was supported by al-Qaeda. Then they had sort of like few disagreements, so he technically cut ties with them around 2016, and then he tried to position himself as a sort of like a moderate militant Islamist. Alex, what do you think of? Maybe he is really becoming a statesman.
So I always find this absolutely fascinating how the West, they has had so much time to develop itself and the concept of the nation state. And what does it have to have? What does it mean? Like Germany doesn't have subjects, right? It has citizens, and that means something, as in there's citizens. It's a very defined, it's not just arbitrary, like there's a bunch of people here that I control. Okay, there's what the okay, maybe they think that the state has a bit too much responsibility towards you. We can disagree with that, but and then I think that they kind of transpose these ideas onto places like Syria, where there's literally no concept of it, and it's almost like this kind of it's like the Palestinian Authority, like it's this total Frankenstein creation of the West. And that is what al-Sharaa is, okay, or al-Jolani. This is a wild, random creation of kind of these, powerful, I would say, this kind of powerful Europeans. And well, I find it quite, it's almost like I used to hear this, a couple of years ago, and that was, oh, but the Taliban is fighting ISIS, so therefore, they're kind of like not that bad, or we should maybe support them. And it's like they're not fighting ISIS because they are a totalitarian, barbaric regime. They're attacking them because they're on their turf. They're attacking them because they're getting in the way of whatever tribal war they have going on. Okay, it, I think that I think it's just really fantastic to see him in this suit walking around. He's cut his beard a little bit, not much, but he's cut his beard. And here he is sort of playing this it is really a bizarre character. Um like I said, it's Frankenstein. And I always want, and they did exactly the same thing with Bashar al-Assad. Because Bashar al-Assad, like they were like, oh well, he's not a radical Muslim, so therefore he's kind of okay. And it's just this complete like, I mean, there was almost this kind of idea that, well, because Bashar al-Assad doesn't hack people's heads off with chainsaws or with knives like ISIS did, then therefore he's kind of, more on the side of us, right? Like his wife has short dresses, so they're just she's totally Western in every way, not even understanding like what is the, I don't know, like what is it that the Alawites did? Like they ran a regime that was way more brutal than Saddam Hussein. I mean, I think the Alawites they were sadistic. They ran the most sadistic regime, I think, in the Middle East. And that's saying something.
Yeah, and this sort of like a quick, and it always happens. I mean, just recently, if you go to the Palestinian Authority. Of course, we have to applaud because they got rid of the pay for slain program. So now EU is going to give 1.8 billion basically to finance whatever they want to do, and that's from like I think 400 million they normally do. And even now, Britain is lifting sanctions. U.S. has already lifted some sanctions when it comes to humanitarian aid. Now there is discussions about Syria potentially joining the Abraham Accords. So that would mean possibly all sanctions would be lifted by America. I don't know what it exactly would mean. Basically, part of the Abraham Accords is recognition of the existence of Israel. And I don't think you can really recognize a nation without recognizing its border. So I'm not sure what that would mean. Not only with the Golan Heights, but also there is a bit more that Israel took control since the fall of Assad. So I have no idea what that would mean, especially since in the constitution, which we can go into a bit later, in the Syrian constitution, it talks about sort of what you have sort of in everyone, so the sort of sovereign nature of borders of Syria. But of course, Syrian borders are highly disputed since there is still not a complete control of like one organization over all of it. So what does that even mean for the nature of that state? But we're already so quick to jump in. Basically, no, we just need to help them just do whatever they want. No demands when it comes to how well. There were already, I mean, you mentioned the Alawite minority. There were already few clashes by the state against those specific minorities, again, as a sort of revenge, if you want to call it.
I don't want to, it wasn't. I'm sorry. I have to. This is like actual Iranian disinformation. They ambushed them. They tried to have an insurgency, the Alawites, against the Islamic regime, against the HTS or the government, whatever you want to call it. It was not revenge. Okay, if it was a revenge, you would have had a revenge attack 2 months ago, right? When the regime actually fell. They had, and by the way, when they when they fought, when the HTS, I'm not defend truth, and it really has bothered me the way that that incident has been used in the foreign press as a way to say, oh look, like, these guys are worse than Bashar al-Assad, right? Look at them attacking the innocent Alawites. And it really wasn't. And yes, I'm sure there were innocent civilians who who were families, okay, of the former regime who tried to have an insurgency against them. So it was, and you even saw Israel Katz as well. Like this is what the Iranians are still trying to control the Alawites and the Russians, right? Because they want to maintain Tartus. They want to maintain the base that they have there. And obviously in Latakia, which is the like Alawite stronghold, so their influence over there is strong. And they're trying to of I mean, unsuccessfully, but they are trying to overthrow to keep their smuggling routes still going to Hezbollah. So I just think it's really important that we don't, share Iranian like disinformation, because it doesn't serve our purpose at all. It serves that the vile Iranian regime, you know?
Yeah, I mean, is that sort of a thing where that is almost, it's not like I prefer one side to the other. It's not like I prefer Assad to HTS or the other way, sort of HTS to Assad. So whenever, not to mention, there is of course big, it's hard to say what exactly is going on the ground. So yeah, i've
Yeah.
i've, I've heard like different stories about sort of that incident. We had
So for
someone,
yeah,
yeah, we had someone from
yeah,
Syria. uh
on the stream,
yeah.
yeah. And but for so the I agree with you that the intel that from what I understood, the intelligence over there is not great, but you do have people who have okay, the United States and Israel, we have a very good human intelligence network in Syria. Very good. And very good human, I mean, we, very good. We've been building up these sources for years. So, the somebody that I follow that I do think really does understand a little bit is Michael Duran. Okay, and he wrote actually a whole piece on this. He was in Syria recently. He's previously in the Bush administration, right? But now he's just a kind of an I don't want to I don't want to say I mean he's probably in the CIA or something, right? But he was like a former kind of diplomat, or somebody who was in Syria under diplomatic cover. And his understanding of it is really, really, I think, really good. And FDD as well does really good coverage of the Syrian situation. And the if you just look at the personnel who died, then you understand, right? That and also there's video evidence of the ambush. But then again, so many things can be faked. However, I do think I trust like the American human intelligence network that they have. I don't think it benefits them to tell a lie either way. You know what I mean? They left
Mhm.
Syria in 2012, but I mean, back at back at the beginning of the kind of the revolution, not revolution, what do you want to call it? Like the Syrian civil war. I mean, the Americans and the Israelis were highly embedded in the Alawites, like echelons of the Syrian military. I mean, you know, and that's why they eventually ended up getting kicked out because they were like, guys, you got to leave. Enough, enough. You've built up too many networks.
All right, let's go to the sort of the new constitution, because I think there's very interesting gems there, and it's sort of like trying to compare it with different kinds of constitution. Also, just a preamble is like a full page, which is already like a pain to read. Just a reminder, like the preamble or sort of like the first few sentences of the U.S. Constitution is like, yeah, one sentence. We the people, and it I'm not even gonna read through the whole thing. I'm just gonna go through some of the things and see what do you think about it. So basically, the inspiration has been taken from many of the following states. Basically, the position of prime minister was completely abolished. Of course, position of prime minister usually serves as the head of government. You oftentimes have both the president and prime minister, with prime minister sort of being elected or sort of chosen in the assembly. Of course, different states have it a different way, but now it's completely gone. So all the executive power is within the president, which just happens to be that the head of HTS is a president. It's funny how that works out, that you get all the power. This constitution was ratified last month on 13th of March, basically, as I said, for 5 years. Um, In Article 3 already, it says that Islamic law will be the main derivation of jurisprudence. Basically, the Islamic law will be the foundation for the law itself, or sort of the interpretation of law. Um, uh, uh, I could go, maybe I could read specifically from parts of it because it's not long. Um, it has in Article 7, it has sort of the state objectives, which that was my sort of question when it comes to sort of fighting with Israel, because it talks about in Article 7, the first part, it says the state is committed to preserving the unity of Syrian territory and criminalizes calls for division and secession and requests for foreign intervention or external support. Now, these guys have gotten into power to large parts thanks to Syria, and Syria is still or the Syrian National Army is still in kind of control of the northern parts of Syria, with the Kurdish forces have sort of joined with the HTS, or at least formally, but you still have the Syrian National Army sort of kind of working, kind of not working. So I have no idea what this means for any of it. Of course, what this means for Israel, what this means for the territory. Uh, uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't see Turkey being able to being able to hold on to Syria.
Hmm.
You know, I don't think that they're going to be able to exert their influence. I mean, as much as um and I hate people say that, wait, the Kurds, it's like, what Kurds are, you know, if people say the Kurds, it's like,
Yeah,
okay,
I
yeah,
forgot the
like,
name of the organization, so
no,
that's
no, no. It's totally fine. I do it as well. It's that there are some Kurdish people who are members of the PKK, and that is definitely not in line with HTS, right? And then there are other Kurdish forces who are, you know, like, going to be more, you know, going to be, they're going to join in to try to, they're trying to hedge their bets, basically, right? But the Turks have had a low level kind of conflict with the PKK for the last, I don't know, 20 years. And the PKK are like they're like a proper terrorist organization. They really have terrorized the, you know, Turkish population. And I think it's been a real mistake for us as Israelis to have, you know, funded that and supported that. I think that makes us state sponsors of terror. And I also kind of think, you know, Ukraine as well is a state sponsor of terror at this point. You know what I mean? Like, I think that even though we really support countries and we really, you know, believe that they're on the side of good, I think, you know, I'm severely against all of this state sponsored, you know, kind of trying. Even Obama had to, you know, remember the Syrian Democratic Forces is literally a creation of the Obama administration. Why? Um to try to shield the fact that he was funding a terrorist organization. This is bad statesmanship. It really is. And it doesn't really matter, even though, you know, we obviously, I do support Israel and I do support Ukraine. It's just, it's been really, it's not, I don't like it. It makes me, you know, it always ends badly. And the, so yeah, so I don't see Turkey being able to really exert their influence for that long, because remember, like, the Turks are not Muslim Brotherhood because they're not brotherhoods, obviously. Um, so that's a big problem, right? That gap cannot really be bridged here. It's a massive schism. And eventually that you know, because Turkey kind of is going to want to say, hang on a minute, you're my vassal. And let's not forget, like, how far things have gone. So I would say up until 2005, 2006, Syria was the kind of the jewel, and it was Lebanon that was the vassal state, right? You know, all of Lebanon was basically, I mean, you know, Syria occupied a lot of Lebanon, right? And you know, they kind of just used it as their, you know, the Syrians used it almost like their Vegas. They would go there and enjoy the casinos, and they just controlled everything. And then in 2005, right? Well, Bashar al-Assad, he was never meant to be the leader. Okay. It was his father was obviously Hafez al-Assad, and it was his son, his first son, his elder son, that was supposed to be, the statesman, but he was killed in a car accident, and then Bashar had to be, brought into the family business, okay, which is, being the godfather of Syria or whatever. And so basically, Bashar al-Assad, he really couldn't unify power, right? And he started to have disobedience, I would say, in Lebanon. Okay, so you had this very important, what's it called? A political leader in Lebanon, Mr. Lebanon, they called him, a very dynamic businessman called Rafiq Hariri. And he was extremely wealthy. Okay, he real estate mogul, kind of corrupt, but also kind of flashy. Like he wanted to take a helicopter ride to Syria for some reason, and the Americans didn't want to lend him the helicopter, so he bought 12 of them with his own money. That kind of large, right? And he couldn't be controlled. So basically, then Rafiq Hariri, was the president of Lebanon, or prime minister, I can't remember. But very important, he starts to be disobedient to Bashar al-Assad. He won't go his way. He's starting to kind of, exert his power. So then Hezbollah started tailing him, and then Hezbollah planted a car bomb and blew him to pieces. Okay. And that so that was, and it is because Bashar al-Assad is kind of Michael Corleone. He is trying to exert his power. He's trying to take over the family business, and he's a weak person. And so his killing Rafiq Hariri, and that just completely sent Lebanon. I don't think they haven't had a prime minister since then, you know. And that is when they stopped kind of controlling Lebanon. Okay. So and so imagine to go from that and just this total fall, right, into absolutely like nothing. And the Syrians are, I mean, extremely educated, very smart, very industrious. So there's massive brain drain, and that's just 1% of like the screwed up history of these two places.
Um, People are talking in the chat. I mean, few people are, of course, talking about the sort of the Western support of, like you said, the PKK or these kinds of organization. And yeah, I mean, this goes back. I mean, how far do you want to go? It could have started with the Soviet Union. This idea of like helping basically our enemies because there is sort of a bigger enemy that we are fighting. I mean, I mean, it's still the policy, right? We support Saudi Arabia to have somebody against Iran. We support, let's say, many of the Kurdish forces because we are trying to fight ISIS or we are trying to fight Assad. And yeah, I mean
Or
that.
even just supporting ISIS. I mean, that's also something. And Ukraine supporting Al Qaeda. I mean, Ukraine is supporting Al Qaeda. They are helping Al Qaeda. I'm sorry, but like I hate it. I hate it so much. And we're at war, and Ukraine's at war, and I understand that like they're at war. They have an objective. They're decided to hunt the Russians all over the world, and they absolutely should. But you know, it it really bothers me, and like the same way it bothers me. This isn't just like someone who's like a bit, like, oh, you have to kind of do business with them, but they're a bit grimy. No, these are stone cold killers, and it really bothers me.
I think some people have a problem with you, specifically referring to Duran, at that apparently he undermined or sort of what would be the right word, doesn't recognize Erdogan as sort of like an Islamist, or
No, no,
something like
no.
that.
I don't know. No, no. He's a Turkish. I would say he sees things a little bit differently. He is not an apologist for Erdogan. He is a very pro-Israel, very uh, uh, studiously has written about Erdogan for years, and has a slightly different lens to look at it, because it is true that the Turks are they're aberrations in this neck of the woods. We think that they can just stroll into Syria and control it, right? But they can't. They're extremely they don't they're not Arabs, they're not brothers. Okay, this is massive. And also most of Turkey is owned by Qatar. I mean, so this idea that there's kind of this powerful scheming guy, like Erdogan in the background. No, if you take a look at them, he's a political prostitute. He's blown in every single direction. Because he's one day he supports Ukraine, one day he supports Russia. I mean, the idea of Turkey supporting Russia is crazy, but it's just you see it. I don't view him as this all singing, all dancing, massive, threat. I think he's actually a distraction. It is Iran that is the threat. Turkey, maybe it'll come, maybe it won't, right? But this idea that there's this there's this enormously powerful whatever. I just simply don't see it. I really don't.
We have a super chat from Paul Zeus. Thank you so much. Super chat from Bonnie. Thank you so much. And also, Jim Brown has become a member. Thank you very much. Let's go to a bit more of the Constitution. Let's go to the People's Assembly, which is acting as a legislature of Syria. As far as I understand, it is unicameral, so it's not like there's going to be a separate thing. It's just going to be sort of like one body, I guess, similar to Israel, if we're talking about, well, similar to pretty much any, I think, Middle Eastern nation. Those who have legislatures probably don't even bother with a second, sort of like a second assembly. The way it's going to work is that the president is going to appoint 1/3 of his legislature, which is definitely a great thing when it comes to sort of ruling. And the rest of it, the 2/3, you might think, oh, maybe elected by the people. No, they're going to be elected by sort of like this commission, this body that is appointed by the president. So functionally, the president is pretty much appointing his own legislature however he wants. And then actually the office of president is not elected. The office of president is appointed by the parliament. So you have this cyclical nature of now again you could say this is just a transitional constitution. It has a few quirks, but this is straight up authoritarian constitution. You cannot I haven't read Assad's constitution, but if I read it, I assume it wouldn't be too far off this kind of complete power. He also it also defines the constitutional court, which again, first of all, is ruled by the Islamic law. But even then, a constitutional court is completely appointed by the president with no sort of no overview by parliament. He pretty much puts there whoever he wants. When it comes to general mobilization and war, that power is purely vested in the office of president, which my understanding is again not unique to sort of Middle Eastern, the way sort of Middle Eastern countries work. But actually, he needs approval of the National Security Council to declare war or national mobilization or any sort of like emergency. But the National Security Council is not actually defined in the Constitution. It was a body created one day before the Constitution, filled with HTS member, which pretty much means war can be declared again unilaterally with the president or sort of with the current faction that's in power. So yeah, the Constitution isn't long, but when you go through it, no, I mean, of course, it talks about in many ways. Even when it talks about Islamic law, it talks about the tolerance of other faiths. It talks about the recognition of rights, how it's going to recognize even international law and sort of humanitarian human rights and all that. But when it comes to you know once you get besides any sort of like nice words, when it comes to the actual applications that I see, it is a pure dictatorship. There is really no. Um, I cannot find anything potentially sort of democratic or uh, sort of any sort of enshrinement of individual rights. Or sort of, it talks about individual rights, but there is actually no. It's sort of like benevolence of the people who rule you. Like, yeah, you have it enshrined, but there are no actual protections you have in the
Yeah.
constitution.
I mean, because this, even okay, even the families are dictatorships, right? Even the family structures, even down to that small of a unit, right? It's the father that has the final say, okay? And the father, you know, is going to lay down the law. This is, a very, what can I, he has to answer to his clan leader at the end. It's like a hierarchical structure of dictatorship. Okay, so um what can I say? Does it really surprise you? Really? I mean, yeah. I mean, I really have to say, I really recommend there's a very good 4-part series about Syria that I recently listened to. So there's been this discourse for years about whether or not Bashar al-Assad is actually, like what character from The Godfather is he? And the similarities between the story of The Godfather and also I mean, it's really quite creepy to tell you the truth. So there's a great series on The Rest is Classified. I really like, you guys have to listen to it. It's by David McCluskey and Gordon Carrera. And since everybody was very triggered by me, saying that I like to listen to Michael Duran, I just want to say I also listen to other analysts like Michael Rubin from the American Enterprise Institute, who's also a Turkey expert and who literally says that Mike Duran is full of total shit. So you have to listen to a lot of different, just because I think that's also like a big, like, you know I think that somebody has good ideas and some nice analysis. Oh, so everything they say is gospel, right? I have to, believe in it. And, but no, you have to listen to a lot of different sources, a lot of different people. Like, that's what people do when they're analysts, is they will interpret it with their own, biases. But still, it's extremely interesting to listen to these people. I mean, Syria. I mean, it's not a country. Israel is not. I mean, it's obviously not a country. There's no. I mean, what's the country about it? There's nothing, right? There's no. There's main. Even the Kurds, like the Kurds, right? They don't even have a common language with each other. You know what I mean? Like, Kurds in Syria can't communicate with Kurds in, like, Iraq in Kurdish, right? And you have such diversity in Syria, okay, and so many different competing clans and organizations of different levels of, mental and a bit, and a massive brain drain.
Well, maybe they can find a unifying figure. Maybe someone like I always forget his name. Ahmed
Al-Jolani.
al-Sharaa can
Oh.
unite the people. I mean, even in the Constitution, it says, or basically that how in America the presidents usually take the oath on the Constitution. Well,
Mhm.
members of the People's Assembly, which is again the new Syrian legislature, actually take the oath before the president of the republic, saying, I swear by Almighty God to perform my duties with honesty and sincerity. And
It really warms your heart, doesn't it?
I mean, what else can you? won't expect. And again, sort of when I talk about, or sort of the reasoning why I want to talk about this constitution is the sort of actions by the West, is the fact like this constitution has been there for more than a month. They had like 3 months, let's say, to do it, and this is what they came up with. And it doesn't matter. It wouldn't even matter what they would write in it, which again, this is the supreme law of the land, or to the extent
Mm,
they are able to enforce it. And it has terrible things inside it that will basically turn Syria in a different kind of Assad's dictatorship, but not
yeah.
not really
Uh,
deeply, just sort of on the face of it.
Yeah, I don't really think he's going to be able to unify power and to solidify it underneath. And I mean, already the foundation is looking extremely weak. The fact that yeah, there's some Western women that obviously think that al-Sharaa is very like hot. There's like a big kind of oh, he's so sexy, like the sexy jihadi. It's actually extremely weird. But beyond that, this is it's and also I think like Europe has I think severely damaged their relationship with the United States with this with I mean he's Al Qaeda. Come on, do we really need him? I mean, find a local jihadi. Does it have to be a Syrian jihadi that the Americans had in Guantanamo? No, I think no. I think it's a really bad move, and um but the problem is that I can already hear their sort of justifications. Yeah, but if we don't come in and support him and love him, then he's going to let the Russians keep Tartus, and Latakia is going to be, continue to be the port for the Russian army to attack Ukraine. And I hear all of it, right? All of the justifications. And by the way, some of the justifications make a lot of sense, but it never works out because they're a terrorist organization. It's like doesn't matter how like sensible and kind of I don't know obvious and yeah it makes total sense. Doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter because it's always it only ever goes one way, right?
Well, we'll see where it goes, although we probably can probably predict where this will go. I
Oh,
assume
come on,
I'd be
Daniel.
even
Maybe
I'd be
he's
even
the
surprised if like you if even the goal of European nations is to sort of limit the influence of Russia. I think
I
Russia
know, I
will
mean, that it's
keep their
not,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's all, I think, exactly that. I think that that was me being extremely generous. Yeah, with my analysis. I think it's far, Macron and what's his name, Jacques Chirac, their involvement deep into Syria, their personal financial involvement in Syria, because the France still kind of used them as being their fiefdom, I guess, because of the, Sykes-Picot and whatever, but the French are deep from what I understand, that I think is well known, is that they're deeply involved financially in Syria. So anybody who's deeply involved financially in Syria, yeah, I gotta side eye you a little bit. I really have to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I think we had Bonnie in the chat asking or saying she needs a map of Middle East to sort of be able to follow. I remember where
Yeah.
everything is based on which great power used to own it in the past, so I know every
Mm-hmm.
single one based on that. So it's not that hard. There's not that many nations. I think there's less than 20, and most of them are on the Arabian Peninsula anyway. So you don't have to learn that many. And of course, there's only one that really is worth their salt, or whatever the phrase is. And that is, of course, Israel, which will continue to follow and see how
I
this will
disagree.
develop.
I think it's Saudi Arabia. I think I really
Yeah.
love the way that the Saudi Arabians they unified the whole country by the king. He married 12 women from 12 different tribes, and then he just made all of Saudi Arabia his family. It's kind of beautiful. in it.
That's also an opinion that
Not
some people
endorsed.
will, of course, there is no reality show today, so that's why we went on a bit longer. But there will be one tomorrow, as well as another episode of the Daily Objective tomorrow, as well as there's a new episode on the Briefly Objective tomorrow after all the shows. You can check out link to the Briefly Objective in the description. It's sort of like this, but much shorter and sort of cut down, so you can gobble it up much faster. With that,
There you go.
thank you guys for joining us today. Thank you, Alex, for joining me, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye.
Bye, everybody.